morning. Welcome back to the Hot Rod Lounge. We appreciate you guys being here. Today, we got a really cool show. If you've never been to our podcast before, if you've never heard of us, we talk about everything about cars, from race cars to hot rods to museums. So
to Mustangs.
Yeah.
Mustangs.
Right.
So eventually we'll talk about Corvettes someday.
No.
Maybe not.
Probably.
Anyways,
hey, we're sponsored by Riverside Ford of Tulsa, where Riverside always wants you to know that they're always by your side, and brought to you by Scotch Media Productions. So, without further ado, I want to introduce the host of our show, the hostess, the host with the most, Randy Pierce.
T. Hall, how in the world are you?
Great, how are you, sir?
I haven't seen you in like 24 hours.
Has it been 24 hours? I'm not really sure.
Well, you were supposed to come out yesterday.
You know what? You're right.
What? Yeah.
It's been more than 24
It's been more than 24 hours. Generally, Travis and I see each other quite often. We are back. You know, we must have done something right because the Air and Space Museum let us come back.
I know. It's fun.
Here we are.
We are here for Stang Thang.
Annual
Stang Thang. And what better than a place to set up and worship the almighty Mustang?
Right on.
Right on, Steve-O?
Right on.
And you can see behind me, I think, on the camera, we have a whole line of Mustangs back here.
Yeah, and probably the coolest Mustang that's here is the P-51 Mustang. I don't know if you can see that, but maybe we can get some shots of it before the day's over.
You can see it on this
Can you?
Yeah.
Mr. Latshaw brings that out every year and lets the guys take pictures with it. So, wonder if he left the keys in it.
Let's go look.
I bet we can fly that thing. Can't be that hard. I mean, if we can get it up, down's easy. Okay.
We've got an airport right there. I mean, there's the road.
Now, I'm looking over Travis's shoulder, out past the P-51. You see the little F-150 at the gate? You see it? That's the, I believe that's the dude that 3 years ago I got in trouble for racing down that road right there.
No. On the turnpike? Or
no, on the tarmac right there.
I meant to say tarmac.
They didn't have the gravel road then.
Right.
And so we came in at the gate down there, and as we...
wait a minute. Are you talking about the 15-minute commute?
No, it took me longer than that today.
Right. Today...
It was 15:15 because I got behind a Ranger that was in the way. And so, no, we came out. We brought a whole bunch of stuff.
Right.
And Darren Callison was with me.
Right.
And I had a GT 500.
Remember that.
You remember that car?
Yep.
Orange. And so I turned in down there, and Callison goes, that kind of looks like a drag strip. And he was driving one of them new Mach-E's. He says, I bet you I can beat you to the gate. I said, I bet you can't. And we took off.
Yeah.
And when we got to this gate, that little white F-150 was sitting right there. He says, speed limit right there is 25 or 15. I said, this airport, nothing around here runs 15 miles an hour.
Right.
Yeah. And you shouldn't put a mile-long road and then put a bunch of car guys on it.
That's true. That's very true.
Lord, there goes a police officer. He heard we were here.
So what are we doing today?
So we're here for Stang Thang.
Right.
We got our buddy, as always, Steve McQueen Hahn.
Hey, it's great to be back.
Yes, it is very nice to have you back.
Well,
you missed a couple shows.
I did.
Yeah.
Work.
Cold.
And you'll notice on our cameras, he's not here.
I know.
Uh-oh.
Are we ready? Let's have it, T-Hall.
Let's hear it.
Earl's not here today.
I know.
Earl is planning for our favorite time of the year.
Yes.
He is on the board for the Mid-America Ford Performance and Shelby meet, and they've got a planning meeting today because, as you can see, we've got the posters already, and we're getting close to June 11th through the 15th in Claremore, Oklahoma.
It's going to be here before we even... I mean, it's going to be here quick.
And we'll
51st.
We'll podcast from there, so be ready, put it on your calendar. Maybe T-Hall will have the technology. We can go live by then. Wouldn't that be cool?
On.
We will. I will say that right now. We can go live. We almost did it today.
Right.
Just for fun.
Right.
But with the elements and being outside and everything, we decided not to do it today.
Right.
Yeah.
So how's the Bullet running?
Oh, man. He's doing great.
Doing great.
Right behind us here.
And, I told Steve when he bought the Bullet, a green Bullet was a rare car.
Yeah.
There's 3 here.
There's 3.
You know, we've never been at an event. Usually yours is the only bullet here.
Wait a minute.
Okay, yours is still unique.
Mine is very unique.
Yours is still all original, right?
It's all original.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not that there's anything wrong with modifying your
But
vehicle.
we can talk him out of that.
Yeah, you keep
Right.
every time you see him.
That's
Yeah.
right.
He can take his bullet and ship it to Washington
Here we
and
go.
put the Steve McQueen package on
Yeah.
it. It's fabulous. But
We
for,
talk-
for now, we're going to cold air tune.
Cold Air Tomb.
Yep.
Okay? Go
And
ahead.
we've got a couple guests today, right?
We got a couple of guests. I got one with us right now, Mr. Alex, and I've known Alex for quite some time at Riverside and at the podcast.
Yep.
We do lots of things with the Air and Space Museum. They got a couple of cool events coming up if you want to drive your hot rod. You know, I've had some comments sometimes that we don't talk enough about cars. Well, today we may deviate from the car a little
Just a little bit.
just because of
Just hang in with us.
Yeah.
It's going to be a fun show.
where we're setting. Alex is the curator of the museum, which means he is a very smart dude.
Yeah.
Okay?
That's not true.
Oh, come on now. Embrace it.
If you remember, years back, you and I came out here and did a video in the museum
Yes.
when we were going for putts on a weekly basis.
Yeah.
And Alex led us through the museum and told us about all the stuff.
I still remember that too.
And so, Alex, it's great to have you with us. Thanks for taking a few minutes to.
Thank you, sir.
This is
hang out.
awesome. Yeah, this is great.
I asked him. I said, "Hey, would you do the podcast with us?" He says, "I'm a subscriber." I said, "Great, you
Awesome.
can be on."
Right.
You know, you win.
This
the
is my
prize.
favorite episode.
Right.
So-
So we'll have at least one share.
You know,
Right.
the funny part, my favorite episode was the one we did at the Mexican food restaurant
Yeah, I know.
on Taco Tuesday, baby.
And we had people watch it too. I mean, it was
It's
crazy.
hilarious. We were sitting in the parking lot. So, Alex, tell us a little about, so the people know about coming out to the Air and Space Museum. You know, what's the cool things to see? I can tell you my favorite. And then, but tell us about the museum, what all you do and what folks can see.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're the Tulsa Air and Space Museum. And really what we've been doing in the past couple of years, and since you guys have been here, is we're a whole new element of interactivity. So when you bring out the family, they're going to experience flight simulators. They're going to be able to land a space shuttle. They're going to be able to get in the cockpit of a couple different airplanes. We've got a big MD-80 aircraft that's right in front of us right now. You can get on that and all that stuff. But really what you're going to do is come away with a whole lot of fun being had and a whole lot of information that you kind of learn. So really what we want to do as we move towards the future is kind of allow people to come in here and experience a museum, and then when you come back in a few months, it'll be a whole different experience.
Wow.
So it's pretty cool. And now that the weather's getting a little bit better, we've got some historic airplanes coming out. I've got, of course, the P-51 right behind us. That is a must-see on your bucket list.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. Yes.
So if you come out there and check that out. And in fact, I'll bring it up right now. I just learned, are you all familiar with the phrase, the whole 9 yards?
I am
You
familiar
know
with
that phrase.
that
Do you know where that
yeah.
phrase comes from?
No.
So that comes from the P-51 Mustang. The belt of ammunition that they put in the wings, when you extended it out, was 9 yards.
Right.
So when the pilot unloaded the clip, he gave him the whole 9
9
yards.
gosh.
Yep.
That's pretty cool.
I like it.
Yeah. So, but to put a bow on it,
Sorry, that's cool.
That is
anytime
cool.
you come out to the museum of all ages, we got some great stuff out here. We got some brand new space exhibits that are going to be launching here shortly. We've got a tremendous planetarium. They run shows on the hour. It's a great experience. Bring the family down and have a great time.
So what does a planetarium show consist of? I've never watched a
No
show in a
kidding.
planetarium. Nope.
Oh, well, you really need to. That's right. It really is kind of cool.
Yeah, it's an incredibly unique theater experience. So, for those of you out there who may not know, a planetarium is sort of a domed theater screen, if you can imagine that. So, you sit down and you can look left, right, up, down, and you're surrounded by a dome, sort of to recreate looking up into the night sky. And what we do is we have different shows that are made specifically for planetarium screens. So when that spaceship flies by, it'll fly all around you, above you. It'll kind of give you a sense of weightlessness. But we also have, and I'm not kidding, a supercomputer in there that has the entire known galaxy mapped out. And what our planetarium manager, Brian's able to do is find any star you want, and we can get as close to it as humanly possible in that planetarium.
Jeez,
so
that's
think about
cool.
like Google Earth, but for our galaxy. Wow. And you can go through it. So it's a really unique experience, and we like it a lot.
Is it? So you see, like, Vegas put out the Sphere, right?
Yep. Oh. Yeah.
So is it very similar to that, or
no? That's
on a
good
smaller
point.
scale, obviously.
Absolutely, no. That's a great point. A lot of those same effects that the Sphere does, we do in our planetarium as well. And I'd argue that it's not just space stuff. A lot of it, we do laser light shows.
Okay.
We've done a new show called Beautifica, which is developed by a music composer, and he creates sort of different artistic representations of the music you're seeing and projects it on the screen. So it's truly a unique experience. So I urge everyone to come out there, and the shows are all family friendly. They're about 45 minutes, so it's a good time.
We did out in California. We lived out in California. The planetarium, Los Angeles Planetarium. I don't remember what it was called. They did a Pink Floyd The Wall show.
Yeah.
And I can tell you something. I will never forget that. It stitched in my brain today. It was so cool. It was such. You guys. So you do shows kind of like similar to that?
Absolutely. Yep. The funny story about the laser light show. They did one last summer.
T-Hole, I gotta stop.
And,
you keep going.
Yeah. So they did the laser light show last summer, and it attracts some folks. Maybe a different crowd than what we're used to. And the Girl Scouts set up their Girl Scout cookie booth.
Oh, that's
outside
nice.
of it. So they had the inside track on folks that maybe were a little hungry leaving the show.
That would be pretty cool.
Yeah. Now, do you have shows every day you're open? How does that work?
Yes, sir. Yeah. So we do shows Tuesday through Thursday. There's a set of shows, and then we have a set of weekend shows.
Got it.
You can go see a show on the hour starting at 11 o'clock.
Nice.
And check that out.
Right.
And, kind of between our planetarium manager, Brian, and some of the other folks here, you're going to get a lot of folks that are passionate, maybe similar to when you guys come out to these car shows and things like that.
Nice.
You're able to talk to these folks and kind of really share some information. If you have questions, everyone's happy to answer it. So
Yeah.
it's a pretty fun place.
Yeah. That's cool. I remember the first time for me coming here as a parent was with a field trip with my kids.
Yeah.
And so walking the museum, looking at all the aircraft, and just enjoying myself with the children here is great. But even coming as an adult, there's a lot of stuff to do and see and learn and to enjoy.
And it seems like I mean, I know it's probably hard, but I mean, it seems like there's something new all the time.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Yeah, and we try to do that. It's here kind of a back end of the museum business. Most exhibits, they try and rotate every 6 months.
Okay.
So when you go to a museum, maybe think like an art gallery or something, they're trying to rotate that every 6 months.
Right.
Yeah.
It's hard to do that with airplanes.
Yeah. I can imagine.
Because once you have them, you kind of have them and
Right.
things like that. So we have to get creative with different ways we do it and things like that. We have a digitized catalog that's been a really great project for us. So we have all these different articles. Think like the old Spartan News issues, things like that. All these things that you can access online digitally that are great pieces of information. So it's pretty cool.
So I have a question with the Stang Thang. Why Stang Thang? What's kind of the history behind that? I know we're looking at the P-51. Obviously, there's a connection to the Mustang here, the cars. But tell us a little bit about the history and why you guys do this.
Yeah, so the Stang Thang kind of developed from some other sort of car-based events and things like that. And like I mentioned earlier, when the weather starts getting nice, we like to have this open area. And it creates a great place for people to come out and just experience something a little bit different. Now, with the Stang Thang, what this does is all of this money helps us build those new exhibits and just as importantly, bring in a lot of field trip groups that may not have the financials that allow them to come. Field trips are expensive on the side of the school. So allowing them to come in here and take a look at this as part of it. But there's a tremendous history between the lineage of fighter aircraft and a lot of kind of some of these vintage vehicles, things like that. You can see it in terms of the history in a lot of the comic books at the time in the 40s and 50s, those pulp comic books. A lot of the heroes want to do something heroic in a vehicle.
Yeah.
And those two vehicles were pony cars, Mustangs, and P-51s.
Nice.
And so it kind of went hand in hand. So a lot of those folks that grew up idolizing these vehicles, they get to come out and they get to show their children, their grandchildren, those cars. And then, of course, it's just really cool to see. So it's pretty neat.
Right on.
Right.
on.
That's kind of cool.
It's odd to think of people idolizing a vehicle.
I know. Who'd have thunk it?
How could that be?
How could that be? How could that
How
be?
could it be?
How could that
Oh,
be?
Lord, they're letting Tanya drive the Jeep. That's a bad idea.
See?
And they do have a car. I mean, there is a car on display here, which
Yes.
was actually unique that I thought. I don't know if you want to speak about it, but I mean, it was A Ford Jeep?
You got it.
Yeah.
You got it.
Tell them all about it, Alex.
Please.
I've been all over that little truck. It's just
amazing.
awesome.
Yep. So during the war effort, World War II effort, Tulsa was a major manufacturer, primarily of B-24 planes and A-26s. Those are large planes. And so the factory was kind of a group of factories connected to one another, but we're talking a mile-long factory, essentially. Right. And so what they needed vehicles to get around, kind of like you see maybe a golf cart or something like today. And what they did was they used the Jeep, the general purpose vehicle, to get from point A to point B. And that's what they're talking about right now that we have on display. So that's the Douglas Ford Jeep. So this was during the war effort when a lot of groups were kind of combining forces and things like that. And this vehicle was put together. That is the original from the Douglas factory.
Wow.
It's been restored by a gentleman named Dan Williams. He restores old Jeeps, particularly from this era. It's in the Air Force blue, not in the traditional Army green, because, of course, this is the Air Force. It's got in the back sort of these jump seats because that's who they would seat dignitaries and things like that. So when they were doing kind of morale events driving through and, these folks, they're paying all this money, they want to see what their tax dollars are going towards.
Right.
They would drive that Jeep around from point A to point B in that factory, and that's what we have right now.
It's right behind us now.
And they
It's coming
probably
up.
can't see it. It's coming up
coming
right
up.
here.
They
So
can
Right
there it is.
behind you. There it is.
It's coming up right there in the picture.
Nice.
Hey,
But
funny. That was great timing.
That was great timing. But
It's like they can hear us.
what people don't understand, and it wasn't just Ford. All of the automakers got into producing military-style vehicles, tanks, and planes during the war. And Ford had a plant that turned out bombers. And they could turn out a bomber I believe if I remember the article, every 52 or 59 minutes. They were turning a bomber off the assembly line during the war.
Amazing.
If you remember in the movie Ford versus Ferrari, they talk about it.
Right.
And then they produced, this is, if you can, I don't know how much of it they can see, when you crawl in it and look at the dash, that little Jeep has a Ford logo
Awesome.
stamped right in the dash.
You just have to come out and see it.
Yeah.
It's really cool, and one of the this is on display where we talk about the Douglas factory, and one of the sister pieces that goes along with that is we have a scroll. The last B-24 bomber ever built in World War II was built in that Douglas factory here in Tulsa. It's called Tulsa American, and what they did was all the factory workers purchased a war bond to fund the creation of that airplane. And if you purchased that war bond, you were allowed to sign a scroll, big long scroll. And the scroll was thought to be lost with the aircraft. However, a gentleman walked in our museum not too long ago with that scroll. He had acquired it, and it sat on his refrigerator for 30 years.
Wow.
But you can see all of these names of these factory workers who worked on these airplanes, maybe drove that Jeep in particular. All these names in these Tulsa and Oklahoma addresses, Northeast Oklahoma. Incredible piece of history to really see that firsthand. We have it right here on display at the museum.
That's really cool.
And there's some cool things in there. And if you dig around in the nooks and crannies of the museum, you will find a trophy from 1927 that's got the Ford logo on the front of it. And Henry Ford and Edsel Ford were big in aircraft.
Right.
Ford built a plane called the Trimotor, if you remember those.
Yep.
And they had a race every year called the Reliability Tour. And the original 1927 Ford Reliability Ford trophy is in that museum. I came out and stole it one day and put it on display at the dealership. So
Nice.
Come out and see if you can find it.
Yeah, if you can find it and you take a picture and you tag us,
Yeah,
I'll get you a Ford hat.
we'll get you a Ford hat.
What?
Yes,
Do it.
do it.
So there's a challenge for our
There's a
listeners.
challenge, and it's on display. You can find it.
You can.
You just have to look around, and no cheating. You can't ask Alice where it's at.
Yes, there is no cheating. And nobody that works here.
And if you go, the cool,
And no more than 5.
no more than 5. If you go in here and look around, there's a lot of cool stuff. There is is it a FA-18 that's setting the big?
Oh, the F-14.
F-14. That's what it is. Tomcat.
Yep.
And they say it wouldn't take much to make it fly again. Okay.
It's on standby, we'll call it that, right?
Yeah.
On stand.
And you can actually crawl up the steps and look right in the
Yeah,
cockpit of it.
it's really neat.
The shuttle simulator is pretty cool. I've crashed that shuttle in there 10 or 12 times.
Great
you know.
job.
Yes.
There's a lot of interactive stuff here to participate in. It's
Right.
a really cool deal.
and you can rent this place and have a party.
Nice.
We've done that.
Yeah.
We did a Christmas party here that was absolutely fantastic.
It's one of the best parties I think we.
That's one of the best parties.
Yeah.
It was a great party.
Right.
Party among the airplanes. You're looking at me like you want me to do something else.
Well, we have somebody on standby who'd like to sit down and talk, but I don't know if we need
But
to
it's
change.
it's only Tanya. We got Alex, buddy.
Oh,
Alex knows all the stuff. Tanya just runs the place. Okay. So, Alex, tell us about. Give us one cool event that's coming up, and then we'll let Tanya talk about the rest of them. And tell us what's coming, what's happening, what are we going to see this summer.
Man, we've got some great stuff. So, first of all, I'll preface that by saying always take a look at our website for everything coming up. So we have a couple big events coming up. In April, we've got an event where we're celebrating the Apollo missions, and a couple in particular. But we're having some of these Apollo astronauts come down for a public speaking engagement. So a couple names that you may recognize: a gentleman named Fred Hayes, who was on Apollo 13. He was one of those guys that was actually up there during that. It's pretty incredible to hear him speak and things like that. And he'll be coming down to the museum to speak with folks, to answer their questions. And, these are gentlemen who we need to make sure that we're listening to them now, because we don't know how many stories they're going to be able to tell.
Yeah.
right.
So it's really important that we kind of have that out here. So
Capture that.
that's an exciting event. And then, of course, we have our Aviator Ball event in May as well, and that's a great time. We're going to set up a big tent out here. We've got the food coming in. Open bar, wink, wink, and then we kind of are able to have a good little time here. And those are some great events here. And then hopefully in the summer, too, we also like to bring out lots of historic aircraft and things like that. So bringing out B-29 bombers and things like that. You can count on one hand how many of those are still flying.
Right.
So to be able to come out and see those, to get inside, sometimes you can even take a flight depending on the aircraft.
Oh, wow.
Incredible experiences that you again, back to that bucket list that you have to check off. It's pretty cool.
Very cool.
All right. Well, let's. Thank you.
You're welcome.
We
I
appreciate
appreciate
you
it.
being
This
with
is
us.
awesome.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
We'll continue with Alex on another show.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to it.
He may be more insightful than Earl.
No, this is awesome. You guys are great, and congratulations with the show. And I see only better things from here. This is awesome.
Thank you
Thank
very
you,
much.
sir.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you.
Yep,
We're
thank you.
trying. I'm not shut down.
That's fine.
You ready?
Are you ready? Hop in Alex's
All right.
chair over there.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Woo! Da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
Little wind blown.
Since we're outside, just make sure stay a little bit close to the microphone.
And
Does that work?
that works.
Sounds
Oh,
good.
trust me, Tanya's loud enough. Okay.
Uh-oh.
Hey, so I don't know that we prefaced this, but so people know, we're outside.
Yep.
There's going to be noise. The
Yep.
wind is blowing.
It's 45 degrees.
It's 45
Wind chill.
degrees. Last year it was warmer, much warmer.
Right. Well, when the sun's starting to warm us up a
Yeah.
little bit.
Of course, last year we did the runway run.
Yes.
I did the 5K before we did this.
Right.
And so I was warm anyway.
Right.
And for people that think a runway is flat, it's not true.
Really?
That runway out there goes up and down. And it goes up in the wrong spots. When you get toward the end of that 5K, it wants to go uphill.
Yeah.
It's horrible. So now we'll talk to the boss,
Yes.
the Bruce Springsteen of the Air and Space Museum, the boss.
Bruce Springsteen.
How was that?
It's a high compliment.
That was pretty good, wasn't
Right
it?
on.
Right on. So, Miss Tanya, we go way back. We've all come out here. We did some cool things. We talked about the Christmas party
Oh, yeah.
that we had out here. That was epic. Did you get to come to that?
I think I was here.
I think you were here.
We've had a lot of Christmas parties here.
We've had a lot. And then I tell you what, he's talking about this. Thanks to Miss Tanya, I got to meet Fred Hayes. That is a cool thing to come see. The one that was more fun than most folks was General Stafford. I had more fun talking to that dude. And he said some things that we shan't not repeat on the air. That was just hilarious. And when I heard he had passed, it was a sad day. Great Oklahoma guy. And,
Yeah.
It's actually been about a year ago. He passed away last March.
yes.
Yeah.
But we sat right out here He was he sat out here in a chair, and they were flying that P-51, as a matter of fact, and carried on a conversation, and that was just a great time. So
I got a picture with him, so I was.
Yeah.
I think I still have pictures of you guys on my phone with him.
Oh,
yes,
really?
I still have them on my phone, so it just works out. So let's talk some more about that Apollo 13 event. Give us some details, what's going to happen, how folks that want to come get registered, and kind of what's going to be going on.
So it's the 55th anniversary of Apollo 13, and that mission is notorious for Houston, we have a problem.
Houston, we have a problem.
So they had some canisters explode on their way to the moon, and they were losing their fuel cells, which is their battery power. And you can't calculate your reentry without having some batteries. And so what was really miraculous about that entire mission is all the smart people that came together to figure out how not only to save those 3 astronauts, but to get them back to Earth safely. And it's just an amazing story, and this event is different than the past Apollo 13 because we did a 54th anniversary last year. This year we actually have several of the key mission control people that were there that day. So one person in particular that's coming, he hasn't made an appearance in a very long time, and his name is John Aaron. And what's really great about John Aaron is Apollo 12 was struck, the Saturn V rocket was struck twice during launch. And they lost, just the entire command console inside of the command module went haywire. Every alarm, every light, and they couldn't regain control of it. And Jerry Griffin was the flight director, and John Aaron was EECOM. That was the EECOM, Environmental and Electrical Communications. And so he was sitting on console, and he had seen this in a simulation, and he told him, he said, set SCE to aux. And basically what that was doing is there was a switch out of a million switches on that console inside there. There was one switch. You switch it down to the auxiliary power down into the rocket battery, and they regained control. So he knew how to save Apollo 12. And so he has the nickname called the Steely-Eyed Missile Man.
Right. Yep.
And even though he wasn't born in Oklahoma, he went to college here.
Did he?
And
Okay.
so, yeah, he was a college graduate from Oklahoma. And so mission control, a lot of people don't understand. When Chris Kraft decided to that they needed this mission control, for launches, early in the early part of manned missions, there was a physics teacher at Southwest University in Weatherford, SWASU, and he was cutting edge physics. And they went and recruited a lot of his students. So there were quite a few people from Oklahoma in mission control, and I believe their average age was 23, 24. Wow. So they were cutting edge, very young. And so John Aaron saved Apollo 12.
Right.
And then Apollo 13, because of the canister that exploded, they were losing their battery power. They were losing their fuel cells. And so that was part of their oxygen. That was their water. But they would not have been able to do a reentry if they weren't able to power up the command module. So there was another fella over that was in charge of the lunar module. And so they quickly communicated, and they figured out how to turn the lunar module into a land raft. Normally they would have just ejected it and gotten rid of it, but they had to have it. They had to have the rocket on the back of it, and they had to have the human sustainability on it, the oxygen.
Right.
Wow.
And so they had to quickly move the calculations from the command module over to the lunar module and save them in the computer, because they had to power down the command module as fast as they could to save whatever remaining battery they had, so that once they slingshot around the moon and started heading back to Earth, they could start it back up, calculate reentry, and then not perish when they came into reentry.
Right.
And so they did that, and then this John Aaron had to figure out how to do a brand new startup sequence that they'd never done before and keep it under 13 amps.
Right.
And he did that. And there was a whole lot of smart people. And so we're going to have
You think?
we're going to have about 5 or 6 of those guys here.
That's
Right.
awesome.
Oh, wow.
Along with Dee O'Hara, who was the astronaut nurse. She was the first NASA flight nurse. And so Dee is flying in from San Jose. We've got Jerry Griffin coming. He was mission control. He was the flight director for the white team.
Right.
So he was actually on console when they got the call, Houston, we have a problem.
Right.
So it's going to be a really incredible panel discussion. So it starts, it's a luncheon. Fred Hayes doesn't do overnight trips, and so we have found a private jet to go get him in Houston that morning. And then after the event in the evening, Williams Oil Company here in town, they're going to use their jet to take him back home to Houston.
Awesome.
So we've got him for the day, plus these 5 or 6 other amazing individuals, and we're going to do a panel discussion and talk about step by step through Apollo 13, from the aspect in the spacecraft,
right,
from the aspect of the flight director, from the aspect of EECOM, from the aspect of the lunar module control. So we have all these different aspects of what was going on at the same time to solve about 20 different major problems at once.
Right.
And it's just an incredible story. We're very excited to have that. That's going to be a spectacular event. It's the 55th anniversary. I believe Fred is 92 now.
I think that's right.
And so he's a wonderful, wonderful human. He's just the nicest person in the world.
And he is. I have, last time he was here, he was talking, he had a book. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I have that book. He signed it.
He does, yeah. So we're going to have, so a lot of these folks that are coming, they have books. Mm-hmm. And so they're going to be autographing books. They're going to be autographing rocket models. People can pay for an autograph fee and bring what they want signed. Right. So it's going to be a really great event. I think Jim Lovell was the commander on that mission, mm-hmm. and we're trying to get him to zoom in and say hello.
Oh, that'd be cool.
So
Tom Hanks, dude. Tom Hanks. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Jim Lovell.
Well, at the very end of that movie, of Apollo 13 movie with Tom Hanks, at the very end, when he shakes hands with a naval officer, mm-hmm. that was actually Jim Lovell wearing his uniform.
Right.
Oh, nice.
So that was kind of a nice cameo. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So and then we have another event coming up in April. April 17th, actually. It's our Aviator Ball.
Yeah, I
think that's your favorite event,
That's my favorite event of the year. It is so much fun.
Is this a public event?
Yes.
It's a fundraiser. It's a gala. So people can buy tickets and come.
Tickets online.
Oh, okay.
I knew I'd spent too much money at the auction the year before, because I walked into one Aviator Ball, and the young lady that's the accountant out here hugged my neck and said, "I'm glad you're here."
Uh-oh.
And she tells the lady at the front desk, "I don't know if he's got a ticket or not, but let him in."
And don't let his cup run dry.
Yeah, there was one night that I took home the Kenny Chesney autographed guitar that they had for sale, and it sits in my house.
Cool.
But we have.
Was I here? Because that sounds very familiar.
I think you were here. Alan and I came. And I think you were here.
I think it took 3 or 4 people to help him get all of his
junk out
possessions.
Of here. Yeah.
Your winnings.
Then the funny part was 2 or 3 days later, Wendy gets a phone call, and it's somebody from out here. "Hey, you won this auction piece. You forgot to get it." And I said, "Wendy, what did you buy?" She said, "I don't know." It was some kind of necklace and earrings. But you need to come because it helps raise money.
Yeah.
It does.
And that event is just
we have
amazing.
some cool people coming for that one too.
Go right ahead.
So so I want to preface that with one thing. A lot of people think Oklahoma has more astronauts than any other state, but that's not true.
Right.
But we are the only state to have had an Oklahoma astronaut in every single manned mission.
Right.
So if you start back with the Mercury missions, the first manned missions, we had the Gordo Cooper out of Shawnee.
Right.
And then you had General Stafford in the Gemini missions, and he flew 2 Gemini missions. He flew Gemini 6 and Gemini 9.
Yep. And then let's wait. In one of those, he set the record. He is the world's fastest man. His re-entry was faster than anybody ever. I personally think he just couldn't find the brake, but so go right ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt, but that was the
credit is credit, right?
He would tell you to the decimal what speed of sound that was.
Oh, yeah.
The man was just a mathematical
Yes,
genius.
he was.
He could do differential equations in his head, and he would do the mathematical equations for correction on reentry faster than the people in Houston could do
Right.
it. I mean, he was. I have to tell you, one time there was an event in Oklahoma City, and I used to be a teacher, and I had a robotics team at the what used to be called the Omniplex, and now
Right.
it's Science Museum in Oklahoma, and they were doing the Oklahoma Hall of Fame. And John Harrington, who was a shuttle astronaut from Oklahoma, and General Stafford were both recognized and given Hall of Fame. And so after the event, I had my robotics team there. And so after the event's all over, they come over to hang out with the kids and look at the robots. And so I had a student there, a very bright young man, and he starts turning beet red. And he would always turn red, like when he was stressed, like during competitions or when he was taking a test. And he started turning beet red, and General Stafford's there. So afterwards, I said, "What was going on? You looked really nervous." And he says, "Well, General Stafford was asking me why we used the gear ratios that we used and how fast it would go in meters per second squared." And so, and he was calculating. He was telling him, "Well, if you'd use these gear ratios," but that was kind of an interesting interaction. The kids really respected him. But so after the Gemini missions, where General Stafford flew 2 of those missions, then we go into Apollo. And so General Stafford flew Apollo 10. And we had Stuart Russo from Claremore, and he flew in Apollo 14. And then we go into Apollo Soyuz, which was the handshake in space with the Russians. And so General Stafford was the commander on that mission.
Yep.
Then we go into Skylab, and we actually had 2 Oklahomans in Skylab. So we had Owen Garriott from Enid, and he was Skylab 3. And then our very own hometown, Bill Pogue, who was Skylab 4. And Bill Pogue was also a Thunderbird pilot before he went into the astronaut corps. And if they had not canceled the Apollo program after 17, he and Fred Hayes would have been in Apollo 19.
Right.
Then after we have the Apollo, Skylab, Apollo, Soyuz, then we go into Space Shuttle. And Fred Hayes was, now Fred wasn't in Oklahoma, but he went to school here, and he was in the Air Guard here.
Right.
And he was in the approach and landing test to test the landing capacities of the shuttle. And then we have our own John Harrington, who was in STS-113. And when he went up into that mission to install a giant school bus-sized piece of the International Space Station, that piece was the truss section P1.
Right.
It was built right over here at Spirit at Boeing.
Right. And
So-
that was the story John told us, that when he got out to put the piece on the ship where he was putting it, he had taken the wrong tool. Remember that story?
Absolutely.
He was supposed to have a certain wrench in his, and you don't just go back and get it. Right. You're floating around in space. So
Here, I'll be right back.
somebody at Houston figured out how to put that piece in using the tool that he had in his pocket.
Wow.
I remember seeing the movie, and they talk about a little bit, some of this stuff. The creativity that went into trying to fix something when they didn't have the tools, when they
Right.
were up in the middle, and then things all break down. The stuff they had to go through, that had to have been. I mean, to talk to somebody who really went through it, and to be able to watch them show.
Right.
That's got to be. It had to be scary though too. I mean, I know they're super smart, but.
Oh, let me tell you, the aviator ball or the astronaut ball that they did that year, that some of these people, Charlie Duke was here. Okay, and if you want to watch dinner conversation go up a notch,
Right.
sit at this table with all these guys,
I'd
because
imagine.
the dinner conversation's amazing. Hey, you remember when we were floating around the spaceship and something broke? And can you imagine car guys out there fixing that stuff?
Right.
There'd be duct tape and bubble gum everywhere. I mean, it would just be nuts. Go right ahead. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I just remember him telling that story
Yeah.
about it took him 2 hours to suit up, and he forgot to put the tool in his pocket.
Well, you know, the interesting thing about that,
Checklist.
when he went in for his astronaut interviews, one of the things they asked him is, "Do you work on your own car?"
Right.
Because they wanted astronauts to come in with a working knowledge of using tools. They didn't have time to train them. They wanted people that already had that innate skill. So I thought that was interesting because, we look at the workforce right now, and one of the things we do here at the museum is we're trying to encourage children to go into workforce, that supports especially our local industry here at the airport. I mean, they're screaming for skilled workers,
Right.
and especially people that can work on airplanes. I mean, you've got the largest commercial maintenance repair facility in the world, right over here at American Airlines.
Right.
And all of these other companies that support them too. And so that's what we do out here is we really try to encourage that next generation workforce with all the hands-on interactives we have at the museum. But I almost forgot to tell you who else is coming to our Aviator Ball.
I'm ready.
So we've got John Harrington coming.
Right?
And then we've got a guy named Stormy Boudreaux.
Okay.
And Stormy Boudreaux, in Vietnam, he flew F-4s,
Okay.
which are probably one of the coolest fighter aircraft ever made.
Yes.
And so he flew F-4s in Vietnam. And then he was one of 14 people that flew both the SR-71 Blackbird
Right.
and the U-2 Dragon Lady.
Right.
So he flew both of the high-altitude spy planes. So he's going to be here. And then we have one more person coming, and they live in Bristow. And he is a Silver Star recipient from Vietnam, and his name is Will Parrish.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
Will's going to come too. And we might have a few more added on here, as I get in touch with people. But those are the three VIP that we have coming to the Aviator Ball. Plus, we do a lot of flight demonstrations.
Right.
So we'll have like the T-6s and some of the other World War II aircraft that fly over and do different formations. So it'll be a lot of fun. And we have Sound of Music Orchestra. That's a local 1940s big band. And so there'll be 1940 swing dancers.
Right.
So you need to bring your dancing shoes that night.
I'm not sure I swing dancing. I don't think I've done that.
Just get your tickets.
Get my
Show up.
all she wants me to do is come to the
Right.
event.
That's
That's
right.
what she's after.
Just get
But
your
you know,
tickets.
it sounds to me like you don't necessarily have to just be like you've got a little bit of everything for everybody.
Oh yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
it's a ball. You were talking about them old planes flight demonstrations. When we were sitting out here with General Stafford, we were watching the flight demonstrations, and they had the squadron of the old World War II planes flying, and Mr. Latshaw was hot lapping them over here in this P-51. They'd make one lap, and he'd make two. You know?
So this sounds like a half a day, full day event to me.
Oh, it's
What's
a
the
ball.
timeline? That
Yeah.
you're-
So,
Really?
so doors open at 5 in
Yep.
the evening, and then the flight demonstrations go from about 5:30 to 6:30.
Yeah.
Because it's May 17th, so the day is a lot longer. And then as the daylight fades, then we go into party mode with the
Right.
live music and food and just lots of fellowship, and you get to talk to these American heroes and
Oh yeah.
learn a little more about them.
Where can they? Obviously it's on your website.
On your
Where-
website.
Yep, everything's on our website. Everything's on our
What is
website.
the website?
And we can post a link
Right.
to our
Yes.
Facebook stuff
We'll
and
definitely
put
do
that up.
Remind me to do that.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think what we really ought to do
Yeah.
is dig out the old Air and Space Museum video and post it again.
That's cool.
Okay.
When we came out here that day.
Oh, from the Ford one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can use that.
I don't care.
Yeah, I don't
mean,
care
You
either.
work there.
Yeah.
So
Now, a question about your auction. Do you have the auction is live or is it online as well? How do you run your auction? during
It's
the
just a
event?
silent auction, so there'll
Okay.
be tables of really cool stuff setting out, and Randy goes and visits several times, and
Randy makes it
Okay, so
round.
last time they did a little auction out here. What was, and you're going to have to remind me, my memory's horrible, the plane they took the picture of over downtown.
the B-24, yes.
What's the name of that plane?
You were going to ask Diamond Lil.
Diamond Lil.
That's
So
right.
they had a photographer chasing that plane and took a picture of it with the Tulsa skyline in the back behind it, and they were selling it.
Uh-oh.
Okay.
We still have those for sale in the gift store.
Yes,
Oh.
but I have number one,
That's
Oh,
right.
yes,
Okay.
it does.
and the photographer has signed it. But
That's cool.
there was me and another dude got in a battle over this picture, and finally we quit. Tanya walked by and we stopped. We said, Tanya, we got a plan here. If each one of us pay this figure, can we have two of them?
Right.
And so she busted out another one, had it
course.
framed up,
Nice.
Of course.
and we got two. But the original sits in my office behind my desk, along with there's a Rolling Stones photo I think I bought here that sits there. But
So it's just a little of everything. I mean,
oh,
it's-
their auction,
right.
you'll find everything from
Jewelry.
jewelry. I bought now this is going to go way back. People may not remember this. I bought an autographed Tony Dorsett jersey the same night I took home that goofy Kenny Chesney guitar.
Goofy.
And then I bought a bottle of, it's a bottle of wine from Jimmy Buffett's collection.
Right.
And I bought it here
Wow.
at the auction. So, you need to come, bring your checkbook, Steve-O.
Bring my checkbook.
Bring
Yeah.
your checkbook. We'll figure out when it is, and
Yeah.
we'll get out of here.
Yeah.
So, what else? Anything else before we get out of here?
Well, I was just going to tell you, when we took that picture of Diamond Lil over downtown, I was in the P-51.
Yes. You were,
Oh, wow.
You were chasing it.
That was probably one of the most amazing experiences ever to get and ride in a P-51.
And if I remember the story, the guy that took the picture said they had to line that up 2 or 3 times because the plane he was riding in was having a hard time keeping up with this old bomber. Said this thing was screaming.
Really?
And
I
then,
remember seeing it flying.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, so the photographer was in a T-6,
Yep.
and I was in the P-51,
Yep.
and then Diamond Lil, we kept having to swing around the outside of it, so we had more space to cover,
Right.
trying to swing around the outside of it.
Yeah.
fun. That would
But
be
that
fun.
was a really cool day.
I say that, but I wasn't brave enough to actually go fly in it. So
No.
it sounds fun, but
Yeah.
There
I
was
wasn't going to do it.
one of the Stang things we came out here and did. We brought the radio station,
Yeah.
and you were giving rides on an
That was-
old aircraft of some sort.
That was the one before last, right?
Was that the DC-3? Was that the
Yes.
flagship Detroit?
Yep.
Yep.
And we sent Hoot Owl
Yep.
from 99.5 on the ride,
Right.
and then Alan Mathis.
He still talks about it.
He still wears the hat. He had it on last Sunday when we did the radio show. And then Alan Mathis, that works with us, went on that ride, and he paid the extra whatever it was to sit in the jump seat in the cockpit.
Yeah.
He said that was a little crazy, but Alan is he started his career as an aircraft mechanic, so that just
Right.
was right up his. But Hoot Owl to this day still talks about riding in that old airplane.
Well, if we had hangar space, that plane would be here all the time.
Right?
Yeah, they're having to pay to hangar it, and
Amazing. We hear an airplane.
yeah,
there's-
there's airplanes
See it?
everywhere. What's the coolest
Airport.
thing is we get used to what everything sounds like normally out here.
Right.
When the F-16s, they rattle the building.
Yes, they
but
do.
once in a while, we hear something unusual, and you can hear it. You pay attention to it.
Right.
And one day we came out here, and I heard double rotor.
Right?
And I was like, that's unusual. And we all ran outside, and it was an Osprey.
Yes.
And they were sitting over here in the run-up area waiting their turn to take off. And they had because those have a ramp in the back of them. And, there was just some military guys hanging out, just kind of waving at us. And it's just like, how cool is that?
Yeah. How cool
a
is
lot
that?
of them stop here, and I think they get fuel if they're doing like cross countries or whatever, and they'll stop and eat at Wanda J's or over here at the White River Fish Company,
Yeah.
and we always see them eating there when we go there. One day we walked in and there was a whole bunch of B1 pilot or
Yep.
B2 pilots.
So last
cool.
question, okay? Because I think it's one of the coolest planes that fly. Did you get to see Air Force One last time it came in?
Yeah, we did. We actually, if you walk over here on the ramp, like you're coming up out of the cockpit of the MD-80, you can see over to the long runway.
Right.
Oh, I do have something to tell you though.
Okay.
So, we have the very last aircraft ever built by Spartan Aviation Company. It's a one of a kind.
Mm-hmm.
It's the Spartan Executive Model 12.
It is the coolest plane in your collection.
It is. It's
I'm
our
just telling
crown.
you.
It's our crown gem because it was the only one ever built.
Right.
And then once they built it, it was commissioned by the owner of Spartan Aviation Company in 1946, and
Right.
that would be the richest man in the world, J. Paul Getty.
Yep.
Wow.
And so, end of 1946, the economy is crushed, right? And we're coming out of World War II, and the military can't give airplanes away. So it's not a good time to come up with a luxury airplane that no one can afford.
Right.
So J. Paul Getty decided to switch over and build like those live-in campers.
Right.
So, but our airplane's going to be 80 years old next year.
There's one of those campers out there too.
Yeah, we
it's right
have-
around that side
Oh,
of the
yeah.
building.
We actually have
coming
one.
in.
Yeah,
The
we have
Spartan
a
trailer.
We have a 1957 Imperial Mansion double ender.
Yep.
So it's beautiful. But our executive is going to be 80 years old next year.
Okay.
And Spartan is going to be 100 years old next year.
Okay.
So we're going to try to get our executive running again.
Oh.
And if it all works out, We're going to take it to Oshkosh in 2026.
Nice. I'm going to tell you, that plane is, for a car guy, it's all chrome.
Oh.
It's polished. It's mirror polished aluminum.
And
It's absolutely gorgeous.
If I remember right from being inside of it when Tanya wasn't looking, it is a green interior seat. I mean, it's just cool. She left the door open one day, and I crawled under the rope and up the wing.
Yep.
It's
It really doesn't surprise me.
it's just
Doesn't surprise me.
Hey, Alex said it was okay.
Well, and one of the other things we're doing to kind of celebrate that 100 years of Spartan in the fall, and I don't remember the exact date. It's either September, October of next year, 2026. We're having a homecoming for the trailer rally, and we had one 4 years
did?
ago.
Yes.
And we had about 40 trailers. I bet we have 100 trailers coming in from all over the United States. People buy these Spartan trailers. They built them from 1946 until 1962. They built about 90,000 of them.
Right.
And people collect them and refurbish them. They're absolutely gorgeous. They're all in kind of the aqua colors, the pink colors of the 1950s. They're just so vintage and so cool. So we'll be having a homecoming rally, and who knows how many of those beautiful Spartan
Hey.
trailers are going to show up.
Maybe
But
we should podcast from the Spartan Trailer Rally.
absolutely, they meet every year,
Why
and
not?
so every 5 years they cycle back to
I didn't
Tulsa.
say no.
Hey, whatever.
Yep.
Wherever the content's at, I'm at.
All right. Well, we better get our contents out of here.
Yes,
because
we're running
it's
out of time.
they're going to expect me to be at work soon.
Oh,
But
11:20.
what? Hello.
11:20.
11:20. You know.
Late.
But so we'll just ask. We're going to do this again next year, and we'll just come out and set up again.
Absolutely,
We're not even going to call. We're just going to come do it.
anytime. You're welcome anytime.
We'll come do it. We'll get that video back up. Travis, let's get out of here. Play us some tunes.
I really appreciate you having us. That was
Thank you.
very
Thanks for
interesting.
coming.
And giving
We
us this
appreciate
cool.
you.
Oh, and we got to mention this. We've powered the whole thing
Yes.
off of the Ford Power Boost truck sitting right here behind us. So,
Yeah. So thank you, Riverside Ford.
thank you, Riverside Ford. We're going to get out of here. Tanya, thank you. For Travis Hall, my buddy Steve McQueen Hahn, and the Duke of Earl, who's out planning the Shelby event this year. I'm Randy Pierce. We'll see you down the road.